It all started on a quiet Saturday morning, one of those days where you just want to enjoy the sunshine, sip your coffee, and maybe get a little yard work done. I was out front, minding my own business, when she showed up. You know, the type, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on, marching across the street like she owned the whole neighborhood. That's when I met her, the HOA president. Or as most of us around here have started calling her, Karen now. I've had my fair share of run-ins with neighborhood drama, but nothing could have prepared me for this one. It all started when I kindly refused to let her little friend group host one of their exclusive meetings on my property. Apparently, they assumed the vet down the street wouldn't mind loaning his yard for the afternoon. I said no, politely, firmly. Thought that would be the end of it. But that's when things got weird fast. Not even an hour later, the cops showed up at my door. She had actually called them, claiming I was being aggressive and hostile. Thankfully, the officers were respectful, and it didn't take long for them to realize nothing was wrong. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of her nonsense. But Karen wasn't done, not by a long shot. The next day, I stepped outside wearing my old service jacket. A couple of my military medals were still pinned to the front. That's when I caught her standing on the sidewalk across the street, staring. And then she lifted her arm. No words, no warning. Just her, aiming something right at me. And the next few seconds, everything changed. What she was holding, what she did, and how the entire neighborhood reacted, well, you'll want to hear this. Because what happened next turned a petty neighborhood dispute into something way bigger than I ever imagined. At first, couldn't tell what she was pointing, just this slow, stiff movement from her porch toward me. I squinted. It wasn't a phone, wasn't a pair of binoculars. Then I saw the shape, the outline of what looked like a small air gun or pellet rifle. She had it resting right on the porch rail, aimed directly at my chest, specifically at the metal hanging just above my heart. My first reaction wasn't fear, it was disbelief. I actually looked around to see if anyone else was witnessing this. Two neighbors were walking their dog down the street, one guy mowing his lawn a few houses over. But no one seemed to notice what was happening. I took a step back, still trying to process it. Was she serious? Some kind of weird message? I hadn't even spoken to her since the cops left yesterday. I hadn't broken any HOA rules. I'd just refused to let her and her little circle take over my backyard. That's it. That's all it took for her to go this far. I served 8 years overseas. I've been in high-stress situations, but never in a million years did I expect to come back home and have to worry about someone in my own neighborhood pulling this kind of stunt. Especially not someone who's supposed to be a community leader. And the way she just stood there, focused, it didn't sit right with me. There was something off. Something cold. I didn't want to escalate it, so I slowly backed toward my front door, watching her the whole time. I wasn't even sure if it was a real weapon, but I wasn't going to take that risk. The strange thing, she never said a word. Not one. Just locked eyes with me, lowered the thing slowly, then turned around and walked back into her house like nothing had happened. That moment stuck with me, because deep down I knew this wasn't over. Whatever game she was playing, it had just begun. And if I wasn't careful, it wouldn't just be about HOA rules or petty arguments anymore. The next few days were strangely quiet, too quiet. No HOA notices, no sudden visits. But the way neighbors started acting told me something was shifting. A few waved like nothing had happened, but others avoided eye contact altogether. One guy I used to chat with at the mailbox suddenly stopped responding to my good mornings. It felt like a line had been drawn, and I was on the wrong side of it. Then came the letter, folded neatly and stuffed into my mailbox with no name, no return address, just a typed note that said, "Veteran." Or not, you're out of line. Play nice, or we play harder. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just Karen being Karen. This was bigger than a neighbor with too much time on her hands. Somehow, I'd stepped into something deeper, something more coordinated turns. Out, her little friend group. Not just book club ladies and dog walkers. They were part of this unofficial inner circle on the HOA board, people with ties to local developers and even a few city inspectors. Rumor was they'd been quietly pushing longtime residents out, either by flooding them with fines or pressuring them into selling. I'd seen 4 sale signs go up before. I never thought much of it until now. That made my refusal to host their meeting more than a personal insult. It was a disruption to their plan. And the medal on my chest, maybe just a symbol to her, a challenge. A statement that I wasn't going to be intimidated. I started digging, asking around, but even that made people nervous. One neighbor pulled me aside in hushed tones and said, "You don't know who you're messing with. They've run people out before. Good people." He wouldn't say more. Just walked off, glancing over his shoulder. And just like that, I realized this wasn't about lawn chairs and meeting spaces. This was about control, power. And if they were willing to send warnings and aim objects at me from across the street, what else were they capable of? Something told me I was about to find out. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the floorboards or flicker from the street lamp outside had me on edge. I kept replaying that moment, her standing there, silently aiming at me like it was some kind of twisted message. I couldn't shake it, and I couldn't pretend it was over by morning. I decided I needed proof, something to back up what I knew deep down was happening. I installed a few discreet cameras around my property, mostly pointing at the street and my front porch. I didn't want trouble, but I wasn't going to get caught off guard again. A couple of days later, I caught something on the footage. Around 2:17 a.m., headlights rolled slowly past my house twice. Same car, no plates. The third time, it stopped right at the curb. The driver didn't get out, just sat there for maybe 30 seconds before pulling off. No reason to be there. No deliveries, no neighbors up. Just quiet surveillance or intimidation. Then my mailbox started getting stuffed with random HOA violations. One for improper lighting, another for unsightly storage because I had a garden hose coiled on the side wall. Nothing serious, but enough to show they were watching and turning the screws. When I went to dispute the fines, at the next HOA meeting, Karen chaired the whole thing like it was a courtroom. Her tone was smug, calm. She even smiled while reading off the violations, acting like she was just following policy. I asked about the footage. I asked why people were driving past my house in the middle of the night. She didn't answer. She said if I felt unsafe, maybe I should consider listing the property. That's when I realized this wasn't about rules or neighborly disagreements anymore. This was targeted, personal. I wasn't just fighting a power-hungry HOA. President Ty was going up against a group that operated in the shadows of our community, using authority as a weapon. And then, just when I thought they were finished testing me, something happened on my front lawn that no camera could have predicted. Something that would push everything over the edge. It happened just before dawn. I was sipping coffee by the window when I saw movement near the front lawn. At first, I thought it was a dog or maybe a jogger cutting across the yard. But no, this was different. Someone in a dark hoodie crouched low near my porch. I moved fast, slipped out the side door, and circled around quietly. By the time I reached the front, they were already gone. By what they left behind changed everything. Right there in the grass, stuck into the soil with a wooden stake, was a small flag. Not an American flag. It was black, with a strange white symbol I didn't recognize. Taped to the pole was another note. Last warning. Stop digging. No name, no signature. Just that I took it inside, photographed everything, and checked my security footage. But somehow the cameras didn't catch the intruder. Either they knew exactly where my blind spots were, or someone had access to shut them off. That thought chilled me more than the note itself. Could someone from the HOA have inside help? And then came the real twist. That afternoon, I got a call from a former board member, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. He told me to meet him at a local diner, said it was about Karen. I didn't know what to expect, but what he told me over coffee left me speechless. Apparently, years ago, Karen wasn't just some neighborhood organizer. She had ties to a quiet network that worked with property developers, buying out homes under pressure, flipping them fast for profit. Her HOA influence wasn't just about rules, it was about leverage, and anyone who stood in the way. They got targeted, isolated, watched. Some were even sued on bogus claims until they folded and left. And now, she saw me as the threat. The outsider with military discipline, too stubborn to scare off. The guy who wouldn't back down. That's when I realized the flag wasn't just a warning, it was a marker, and what came next would hit much closer to home than I ever expected. I knew I couldn't keep playing defense. The note, the midnight car, the flag, they weren't random. This was a coordinated move, and I had to respond before things got worse. With the help of that former board member, I gathered documents, emails, meeting logs, even a coup.